So, just in closing, I want to talk about a few things because you're going to hear about these things, you're going to wonder about them. At least you've had a bit of a heads up on things. So topics I'm going to talk about, a little bit about healthcare, and I'll intersperse this with discussions a little bit about virtual reality. Communications, there's something called WebRTC that everybody thinks is sort of the next magic thing in communications. The issue is that developers have to learn to use it in websites and so on. And 4K video is going to become more or less standard as a video standard. I'll talk a little bit about 3D printing. Anybody heard about 3D printing? Yes. Yeah. The voice assistants, because what you're seeing here is a very immature setup, but it's really artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and mixed reality. So I've sort of mixed some of this stuff up. But let's look at some patterns from the past. Because I've been in this, as I said, I've done computers since '64. I've been in this PC game since '84, and in the internet business since 1994, following it. And some of the constants that you see, every generation we move along, there's more processing power. One reason to upgrade to a Windows 10 PC, frankly, is you'll get a faster processor, you'll get more processing, things will work faster, and so on. I actually upgraded to this MacBook Pro. One reason was my old MacBook, even with all the new operating systems, the new operating systems were more demanding and needed faster processors that weren't in there. And in fact, it came to a point where the last operating system upgrade from Apple could not be installed on that old machine. So, anyways, the thing is, there are faster and faster processors coming out, and with every generation, the new operating systems try to take advantage of those, and sometimes it doesn't work with the older machines. And we're also seeing things like longer battery life. Most of the days here, I will get through to the evening and still have 30% of battery left. Today, it's more or less been sitting here. I've used it a bit coming over and a bit here. Since 9 o'clock this morning, it's been sitting at, right now it's sitting at 64%. And if it had been on my previous device, it would probably have run out of charge. So the cloud is going to be expanding, just like the universe. There's increasing access to remote data and information. One of the issues, again, as we discussed in the last session, is there going to be a decline in privacy? How much do you have to give up? How much is going to be protected? And you don't have control over that. So don't worry about things you don't have control over. Going wireless. Today, some point soon, we're going to have projectors that just take Bluetooth. We do have speakers that take Bluetooth. In fact, this guy takes Bluetooth. The speakers on my television have a Bluetooth capability. So when I went to replace a home theater system, which I'd spent about $4,000, I had a replication for around $800. Much better screen, much lighter weight device, connects to the internet, and I got a speaker attachment for it, and it can be the speaker for the TV, but I can also turn on Bluetooth and play the radio station Classic FM off here, or play any of my iTunes music off here, so I don't need a full home stereo theater system. And then we're seeing this near field communications, which is where you tap things, like I say, you tap to pay, and I can even, there's a way to use it to transfer files between two phones if they're put back to back, that sort of stuff. So we've got AirPlay. There's my iPad. It's been showing a PowerPoint up there all along through the AirPlay box that's the Apple TV box that's behind that TV set. So Apple TV, I found it's great for sharing stuff. When I wanted to go through some photos to show at my wedding anniversary, I had my family sitting on the Chesterfield. I just transmitted all the photos up to my TV screen through Apple TV. Everybody could see them, everybody could comment, and so on, and there were no wires. So gradually you're going to see a lot of these changes where wires go away. Displays and screens, I've already talked a bit about it. 4K is becoming the standard resolution for TV sets and for other displays. We've seen it's 4K. You can record 4K video on these iPhones and new Android phones and so on. So that's sort of becoming a standard. I was skeptical about this, going from HD to 4K. Would somebody really see that much difference? But yeah, it is a little more brilliant colors. It's little crisper pictures and so on. So it is becoming a standard. I think when Apple announces devices on Tuesday, their new Apple TV box is supposed to support 4K video. Voice assistants. Okay, Google, what is the Blue Jays score again?
They are leading the Detroit Tigers 8-2 in the top of the 8th.
Oh, they scored another run. Okay, Google, what was the score of the Saskatchewan Roughriders game last night?
The Saskatchewan Roughriders lost 48-28 against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers yesterday.
Well, they beat them last Monday, so that happens when you grow up in Saskatchewan. You never lose the Roughriders. There you are. The voice recognition's built in here. If you have a Windows machine, there's something called Cortana. It's built into the Windows machine. It's built into my phone. I go and ask my phone these questions. So, and on the Apple device, it's Siri. In this case, I use Siri on my MacBook. But I'm just trying to give you an idea. There's a whole breadth of things you can ask questions about. And now we talk a bit about virtual reality. Right now, and I'll show you some examples in a minute, you see people wearing these glasses that over their heads and so on. They're trying to develop something that'll work as your regular glasses. Okay? I'm not sure.
And you need earphones with that, do you not?
You may.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, this is one of these things you sort of say, okay, great concept. Let's see it, make it happen. You know. So on healthcare, on the wearable side, there's Fitbit, and I've got a couple of screens here from mine. The one I focus on is how many steps did I do in a day. That was last Saturday at the air show in CNE. Almost got to my 10,000. And last Tuesday night I got 7 hours and 55 minutes of sleep, because it'll now tell you how much sleep you're getting. And there's other activity. There's one activity that sort of encourages you to get up and be active for 5 minutes every hour, and all sorts of stuff. And it's evolving too. I mean, Fitbit's just announced a new watch they're coming out with in the fall, and it may be almost as good as an Apple Watch. So you go to, how many of you had your blood pressure taken at the doctor's office? Okay. How many of you had your blood pressure taken between your doctor's office visits? You take it at home. And then you have to write it down and remember it and all the rest of that, right? With this, you just pull it out. That turns it on. It's a Bluetooth connection. I'm not going to do it right now because I have my coat on. You slide it over your arm. It measures your blood pressure, and you can have it do it 3 times, okay, which is better. In my office, they do it 6 times when I go and get it on their machine, but 3 times. The beauty of this is, and it records it all out in the cloud, right? And I can email that information to my doctor. Now, instead of having blood pressure measured just when I'm at her office every 3 or 6 months, she's got a daily record to look at. and you can write in notes, what were you doing, and that sort of stuff. And to me, from my own science training, that's a much better way to deal with it than a random sample taken every 6 months. So you're going to see a lot more of this coming out. 3D printing. Well, something I found on Facebook, these people are advertising a 3D printer for $199. It's called Cubibot. But the point is that you can print wood, carbon fiber, flexible materials, nylon. Over at Sunnybrook here, they're investigating printing skin for skin grafts and other things in the healthcare field. So there's a lot of technology coming in that. I saw one friend of mine, Amber MacArthur, I don't know if you've seen her on TV or not, but she's a bit of a social networking guru. She had something up the other day of it putting out pancake mix in a W form and calling it her W waffles or something or other, out of a printer. So there's a lot coming along with these 3D printers. One example, they made a wrench for the space station. They got up in the space station, they needed a certain wrench. How do you get it up there? You got these guys up there, they needed a wrench for some repair job. They designed it on the ground, they transmitted the details to the space station, and the space station, obviously it's set up to somehow print out without the effect of gravity, and it made this wrench. Okay, the Voice of Sin, since I said it's in its infancy, there's support infrastructure through developers. I think for seniors, there's a potential to, and the rest of us, anybody with disability issues, there's potential to assist those. Look, I didn't have to walk over to it to turn on the music. I can wake up in the morning and just say, okay, Google, play some breakfast music. So we'll see. And the other device here comes from Amazon. It's called Amazon Alexa. And the third device here is something that Apple's going to come out with in the fall called HomePod. So they're all, and their HomePod will be built around that Siri voice system. And as I say, as you just saw, it's embedded into PCs as well as mobile devices. So I just use my MacBook to get the Blue Jay score. Okay. Now, virtual reality, it's the use of computer technology to create a simulated environment. It places the user inside an experience. At the RBC Canadian Open, there was a display where you could put on the goggles and then you could turn around and watch Brooke Henderson make a tee shot and watch it go down. So you looked around, there she is, she makes a tee shot, and you look down and there's the shot. I'll show you a different example I saw at the Grey Cup last fall in a minute. Users are immersed and able to interact with the 3D worlds. It simulates many senses as possible: vision, hearing, touch, and even smell. The limits right now are the availability of content and low-cost computing power. So it's not totally ready to be a consumer item, but if you go to the hospital someday soon and they diagnose something and they want you to see what the experience is going to be, they might put a virtual reality headset on you and give you a demonstration of what's involved. Okay? The example I used the other day, or earlier today, about my son having to deal with a patient with a very low blood pressure and somebody video recording it, eventually that could be video recorded and put on a virtual reality thing. So there are many players in this, many applications. Like I say, there's limited consumer adoption due to cost right now. But here's a couple of examples. I was at the auto show last year and Ford had a virtual reality demonstration. You were flying around this imaginary city and going up and down, and notice there are pistons underneath here. So they were, as you flew around and it sort of took a dive, you took a dive on the pistons. So there she was watching something and she was trying to do the dancing to it and so on. And I just put that as an example. Healthcare, 3D scans and mapping of body parts allows doctors to get a little closer look, and they might be able to perform surgery one day with the use of VR. So there's some significant advances in surgery these days. So let's go for a final review. We sort of talk about spreading stories and information. But we've been doing that over the centuries. I went to Cologne Cathedral 3 years ago, and they point out that the stained glass windows are all Bible stories. That's how they communicated Bible stories when people were illiterate. But video played a huge role, video images. But it was only a local community that would see that, anybody who came to the cathedral. Well, then we're sharing ideas and stories through print, broadcast media, to broader geographical regions. That library is the most amazing library I've ever seen. It's at Trinity College, Dublin. It's got 200,000 books. The last book published in there was in 1904. Because Ireland has a rule or law, any book published in Ireland has to have a copy contributed to their library. So they got 6 other libraries on the campus. But this one just blew me away. And yet, but that was the way, we read books. We had printing press. Eventually radio came out. We had broadcast media evolve and so on. But still broadcast media, it went to, CTV or CBC, the local Toronto stations, they go to an area around Toronto. Okay, the Ottawa stations go to an area around Ottawa, etc. And even the newspapers and so on. But today, with the internet, we can share our individual lives and stories around the world in an instant. Whether it's news, TV, weather, social media, communications, radio, file sharing, banking, Facebook, Skype, all that. So we talked about devices, internet access, and the cloud, the infrastructure. We talked about platforms and devices. We talked about the app worlds and all the different apps and the cross-platform apps and so on. We talked about proactive protection. We talked about frauds, spam, and scams. We talked about personal communications. And the social networking is going to grow.